Hi, welcome to Sabbath School Daily, where we have been studying from this lesson right here, God's Mission, My Mission. Today we're studying from lesson number 5, which has the title, Excuses to Avoid Mission, and today is Tuesday's lesson, which has the title, Our Excuses, Inconvenience. I really like what one of the paragraphs in today's lesson says. It says, whatever Jonah's personal feelings about the Ninevites, he preached what God told him to, and the results were astonishing. The Ninevites were moved to repentance. Yes, Jonah had to go through a lot to do what he didn't want to, but when he did it, God was glorified. You know, when we live out God's mission, we will go through several inconveniences. For example, one of these inconveniences that we see here with Jonah is that he felt humiliated going to these people to preach to them. After all, these were people who were extremely cruel and had been cruel towards his people. And so going to them, extending mercy to them, was something that seemed counterintuitive to him. Why would he want to extend mercy and grace to a people that were cruel gratuitously for nothing? And so that was something that he had to overcome, the humility to go to preach to them, even though he thought that they truly didn't deserve it, and truly, they didn't deserve it. Again, this has nothing to do with merit, it has nothing to do with deserving, it has everything to do with grace and with love. Another inconvenience that might be felt is financial. After all, when we go into the mission field, we don't really know where the next paycheck is coming from. We don't really know where the next food is coming from. In many instances, we don't even know where we're going to live. Just ask many missionaries what are the stories that they can tell you about moments where they didn't know what was going to happen next because they didn't know where their money was going to come from. But miraculously, someone sends a check, or someone buys them some food, or someone pays for their rent, someone pays for the energy or water bills, and that is how the Lord operates. I believe that when we step out in faith, He does those kinds of things on purpose to confirm that we're on the right track. Another major inconvenience that can arise is our own lack of will, our own laziness. After all, it would be a lot easier to stay and do nothing than to go and do something. And so, in many occasions, I know that I have felt the lack of desire. It's basically what Moses says to God in Exodus chapter 4 when he says, look, Lord, send anyone that you'll send, just don't send me. You see that after all of his excuses, because he does give the Lord some other excuses, it kind of comes down to, look, God, I don't want to go. Send anyone. It's a good plan. It's a good idea. I just don't want to go. And we act that way so many times. We'll come up with so many excuses. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I wouldn't know where to start. Well, that's not what God is asking. He's asking you to go. Everything else will happen in its right moment. And so I believe that a big part here is learning how to deal with the inconveniences and learning how to see beyond them. Because after all, we're dealing with a God that is limitless. He is inexhaustible. There is no lack of resources. There is no lack of competence. There is nothing that limits God except when we shut ourselves off. Because if there's one thing that God will not do is force us to do something that we do not want to do. God doesn't force anyone. He doesn't coerce anyone. But sometimes He will push you, knowing that that little extra push is precisely what you need to go on the right track. And I love the Lord for it. How many times in my life do I know that I did something enjoyable, that I did something good, not because I wanted to go at first, but because someone that I love, someone that I cherish, gave me that little extra push. And so the Lord does do that. It's not violating our free will, but it is stimulating us to do something that He knows we are going to enjoy and that He knows is going to be worthwhile. With Jonah, the Lord gives him that push. Now, it's a big push that He gives Jonah, but this is a prophet that we're talking about. This is someone who already lived a life of ministry and that here is going against everything that he knew to be right and true. And so the Lord stimulated him. He did give him a good push. And here we see that Jonah, he overcomes that. If you read Jonah chapter 3, there's a beautiful prayer where he converts back to the Lord. He admits his own folly and he admits that the Lord is great in mercy. Whatever else might be said about Jonah later on in chapter 4 and whatever else we might talk about tomorrow, we do see that Jonah, he came to a moment of clarity at the bottom of the sea. And that is important because many times that's precisely what needs to happen to us. It's when we reach rock bottom that we have that change of heart. We turn and we see precisely what we're missing out on. I hope that it doesn't take that for you or for me, but in all occasions, we have to pray for the Lord to do His will for us and for those that we're going to minister to. So my prayer for you is that you don't allow any inconvenience, be that whatever great excuses that you might offer to not live the life of mission, and for the Lord to have patience with us and to educate us, be that wherever we may be, in a good moment of life or when we hit rock bottom. May the Lord use you today. Don't forget to study your lesson. It's an important one today. I feel that this is one of those excuses that we like to use a lot. our inconveniences. And dealing with them, getting over them, is something that can only be done truly by the Spirit of God. So study your lesson, look up the Bible text that's mentioned here. It's Jonah chapter 3. It's a full chapter of the Bible, but it's a beautiful read. Don't miss out on reading it. Also, comment down below if you have any questions or any comments. I'd love to interact with you. And please remember to like, to share, and to subscribe to our videos. We release one every day, and I hope to see you again here tomorrow for another Sabbath School Daily.